This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome to For the Record on BCIT's The Crow. I'm Braden Coombs. Today we focus on three unique stories happening across Metro Vancouver. A group of women and the LGBTQ community gather for a Pokemon trading cards event every now and then. Orchid Salang will talk with the founder of this group, Mary Funk. Then, a discussion about the negative effects that technology and phones have on a child's development and well-being. My co-host, Selena Teixeira, will be speaking with Morgan Sands, a student in childcare development. But first up, Forest Kids Occupational Therapy is a program based in North Vancouver that specializes in providing young children with an enjoyable therapy experience. Their program is based solely outdoors at the Lower Seymour Conservation Center. Children aged 4 to 9 are welcome to attend a 9-week session where they work towards their therapy goals. It is done in a group setting with other kids working towards similar achievements. This gives kids the chance to learn new skills in a group environment, creating less stressful conditions and allowing for collaboration. Rosie Higgins, an occupational therapist and the co-founder of Forest Kids OT, believes forest therapy can be more impactful for kids. I had the opportunity to speak with her, discussing the program and its impacts. Here is our conversation. Okay, Rosie, so my first question for you is, what inspired you to start this program?
Sarah and I are long-term friends. We both love the outdoors. We find for ourselves, and we've also seen this for our children, that nature is just so regulating and restorative. We've been OTs for many years, working in various roles, but over the last few years started to learn more about these pediatric nature-based practices, some in the U.S., some in Ontario, some in Alberta. And just felt really drawn to it because there was no such thing in BC to date. And then we both volunteer with our children's cross-country ski club, and so we would spend our winters just starting to chat about this idea slowly it sort of gained some traction of what it could actually be. And in 2024, we decided to run with it. So, yeah.
Wow, okay. And obviously your program surrounds the aspect of occupational therapy, but what exactly are you trying to teach the kids that are in your program?
So it's like any other occupational therapy practice. It's very goal-based, and so each children's goal is going to be different. We do an intake interview with the families at the beginning and do some collaborative goal setting with them. And so then our job throughout the session is to weave in skills around those goals into the sessions. There can be overlap amongst the children. So a lot of the families identify goals around emotional regulation, self-regulation, or developing peer relationships. Those are some common goals, but can be more specific for each child. So we weave strategies in throughout the sessions.
Okay. Could you maybe give us an example of how drastically someone improved and met their goals over the 9-week period of one of your programs?
Yeah, we've had some children who are primarily homeschooled or aren't comfortable in a school setting, and so this might be one of the times that they get to interact with peers on a regular basis throughout the week. And so we've really seen some just great meaningful relations develop and meaningful relationships develop, and then also just being comfortable being in a setting of seeing each peers, going from being very uncomfortable at the beginning of the session to being able to play freely with a bunch of kids without even thinking about it by the end. So seeing that growth has been really neat.
Yeah, for sure. So how does this kind of form of therapy differentiate from, let's say, normal forms of therapy like indoor, like one-on-one in a classroom setting? How does being outdoors affect a child better?
Yeah, it's going to be whatever is the right fit for the child. So for some, doing a center-based or a home-based or school-based one-to-one OT program is maybe the best fit. For our program, one of the big pieces is that it is group-based, so it gives kids the opportunity to sort of learn in a group environment, learn from their peers, and then just being outside. There's a lot of evidence just showing how regulating that is for kids. And a lot of what we're working on is some of this regulation piece, calming our nervous systems. And once you're in nature, that's just this layer that's already there. Kids feel more calm. And it's just this big playground. We're outside of the noise and the stress of everyday life, and we're just in the forest. And it just really enables a lot of play and free play.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it works for some kids, and some kids, it kind of depends on the kid, right? So
depends on their goal as well, sort of what the family is looking for. And we've had some children who maybe attend a one-to-one occupational therapy session concurrently with doing our program. So it, really depends on what the kids' needs are. And maybe we've had some kids come to us from a center and they've worked on those goals, but they want to work a little more on other goals. So it can work together with other therapists or just do this program on its own. Okay.
So how was this form of therapy more impactful for some kids? What makes you think that it's more impactful for some kids and they notice that they respond better to outdoor activities versus doing it indoors?
Some of the children we see feel a lot of stress or overwhelm when there's pressure put on them or being in certain environments. So some of them maybe wouldn't thrive in an environment where they are being asked to participate in certain tasks. So maybe in the classroom. In our program, we try to make space for whatever a child is, where they are that day, and meet them where they at. And so being outdoors, there's not a set of instructions around you of, you can come and sit at the table and do this, or you can do this. It's very open-ended. And so with the goal to just keep the pressure low, it may help sort of engage some children who might have trouble engaging in a more structured setting. And then also just being an opportunity to be in that group and sort of develop friendships over the 9 weeks is how we're running now.
Yeah, for sure. So why is this program best designed for children aged 4 to 8, as you mentioned? Why can't it necessarily work for someone who's just going into high school or graduating elementary school?
Sure. Right now, we're just 2 OTs in the first year of our business. So this is the age group we've chosen to focus on. We're running one program a week, and I think this is where the most need is for OT services at the moment. But it doesn't mean we wouldn't be interested in expanding to additional age groups in the future. There are other nature-based practices, such as counseling around the province, where therapists have found a very healing impact on moving their counseling practice outdoors for teenagers, for adults. In BC, healthcare practitioners can prescribe Parks Canada passes to adults. And so I think there's a huge effect across outside of this age group for anyone to have a therapeutic practice in nature. This is just where our time and resources are going at the moment. And we'd love to expand if and when we have the time. So.
Okay, great. So obviously you mentioned that it's only been around a year now so far. So what would you say your experience has been like so far?
So it's really been since September 2024, so even less than a year. It's been really valuable getting to be part of these children's and families' lives, and we feel so honored that they've chosen to participate and trust us with their kids and trust us to work with them.
Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second here. And could you give us an example of what you would do in just one of your programs? That's because you mentioned it's like an hour and a half, right? So what would you do with your kids during that time to kind of help improve what they want to improve on and meet their goals?
Yeah, so we usually just want to start with a low-pressure activity in our gathering space. We might set up some sensory bins with pine cones and sticks. We might set up a tic-tac-toe game using sort of elements from the natural environment, sticks, rocks, pine cones, et cetera. And once everyone's gathered, we will say good morning and walk out away from the parking lot into the forest area. And during the hour and a half, we leave some time to set up a circle activity and sort of build in some books and some education activities, sort of maybe looking at some of those goals, learning about our nervous system, learning about our brains, and to sort of build in an understanding of the body. And then we also want to have a large time for sort of these low-structure activities. We might set up a mud kitchen, a scavenger hunt, sometimes a low-stress craft or art activity. We've done things like cooking on a camp stove, making hot chocolate, just some things that provide opportunity for the children to come together, but also have free play time. So it's not a really high-structure activity where you're following a set of rules. And then that gives them a really nice opportunity to sort of work together, start to build that collaborative play.
Yeah, okay. So, sorry, I'm just forming a question in my head here. So why do you believe that it's more impactful for kids when they're in a group together with other kids? Why is it better to do it with a large group of people and you don't really necessarily feel like it's a one-on-one activity?
I think, again, it comes back to what the child's goals are and what the family's goals are. And so for a lot of these children, building peer relationships and learning some back and forth play and learning to feel comfortable with other children around them is one of the goals for a lot of these kids. So to build those skills, we want to have them around other kids. And then also kids tend to learn from each other, and they, can see someone else's behaviors and see how that's responded to and see some strategies they might be learning, and they can learn things from that. There's a lot that they can learn from each other, and then it does give us the opportunity to provide it to a larger group of kids, one-to-one out in the forest. Might be, might not be as therapeutic as really specific goals that you might have in a center-based program.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, that's actually all my questions, Rosie. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, good luck with putting it all together. Will you send it to us?
Yeah.
It will be on the website?
Yeah, I can for sure send it to you after I'm done. Yeah, for sure. So that's For the Record.
Cool.
I'm Braden Coombs, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
And welcome back to For the Record on BCIT's The Crow. I'm Orchid Salang. The popular card game Pokemon has been a staple in youth culture since its creation in the 90s. The hobby has stood the test of time, with many fans still collecting, trading, and playing with the cards. One problem the community faces, however, is being a largely male dominated space, leaving many women and girls involved in the activity feeling out of place. One girl is creating a resurgence in Vancouver's Pokemon world, carving out a space for women and the LGBTQ community. I spoke to Pokemon card enthusiast Mary Funk, who's the organizer for the women and queer focused events and meetups. We discussed her passion for Pokemon cards and her journey with creating spaces where people like her could have fun and feel seen. Mary, could you tell me a little bit about how you kind of first got into Pokemon card trading? Like, did it start when you were a kid? How did you kind of get introduced to it?
Yeah, I've always kind of been into Pokemon from a young age. Didn't really start collecting until about a little less than a year ago.
Okay.
My girlfriend, she started like opening cards and we kind of got into it that way. And then I started collecting whatever I thought was cute. And then it ended up, yeah, going from there. Then I started going to card shows, etc. I think I'm way more into it now than my girlfriend is, but
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, I find it really fun. I love collecting things. So.
That's so funny. With like Pokemon trading cards, I know there's like other kind of like trading card games, but like what do you think like sets like I guess Pokemon specifically apart from like those other kind of collectible sort of games?
Personally, I just really like the art. I find I'm like a huge fan of anything cute, so I love Sanrio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find it's really adorable and I find it very nostalgic too. Like I have like all my favorite old cutesy Pokemon, like Jigglypuff. I love a good like pink Pokemon and
Yeah.
yeah, I love the art, the cuteness, and then I can like collect kind of like there's no like rules to it, so you can kind of collect whatever you want. So,
No,
yeah.
that's true. And I think like also I was like talking about this with one of my friends too. Like it's just like it's such an old game. Like it's been around for maybe like 20 or more years and like people are still kind of like collecting it. It's like still a huge thing, which is super cool. I think like the nostalgia aspect of it is like really, really cool as well. But yeah, you're right. Like the art style too. I love me like a good little like pink cute card. Like I even have on my phone, like I have a cottony. I don't
Oh,
know.
so cute. Yeah, love
Yeah,
her.
because I just love same. I just love cute things too. But yeah, so the next question I had was how do you or sorry, what inspired you to start hosting events for like women and specifically like the LGBTQ plus people and players?
Yeah, well, I just recently started to go to like card events and also was thinking of going to like the TCG like tournament style events. But I was really like kind of nervous to do that, especially since um the main people that are there are usually like straight cis men. And me being a queer woman, I just felt really kind of like out of place and like I really wish there was more people like me at the meetup, so I would feel a little bit more confident going into them. So yeah, I just kind of took the initiative and I was like, well, what if I just like made a group for women and queer people? Like I feel like there should be like a good amount of people that would attend. And yeah, first meetup, it was way more successful than I thought. I was expecting maybe like 10 people and we had almost 50. So it was really exciting and I was like, oh my gosh, there is definitely a need for this. And yeah, I'm just really happy that people are so responsive to it and wanting to come hang out and trade cards. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really fun.
And like with that, was there, I guess, like any other people doing like what you're kind of doing, like specifically for like for women in the LGBTQ plus like community, like doing that with like games or like hobbies, or was this just kind of your initiative that you just sort of like was like, hey, there's like a need for this, like I'm just gonna start this up.
I haven't seen any like events like this in Vancouver per se. Um, Yeah, I started kind of like my own Pokemon page a few months ago, and then I had like just like a whole community of other like female creators that also like collected cute cards, and that kind of like just gave me insight as to oh, there's other people like me out there, but they're online. So I was like, well, let's see if there's any locally. So yeah, I haven't really seen much initiative yet. And yeah, it's a little disheartening. So I'm really hoping that even more more groups can come out, whether it be like Magic the Gathering or anything. I'm not really into like that. But yeah, I think it's so important for women and queer people to have our own spaces and support each other in hobbies and yeah, just make more room for us.
Yeah, totally. And like speaking of that, have you seen like any of the, I guess, the attitudes or the representation like shift over the years for like girls in this space? Or is there anyone else or yeah, is have you seen any like change throughout the years that you've been doing this?
I feel like I haven't been doing it that long to really notice anything. Um, Yeah, I can't really say 100% about that, but I feel like just me starting this now, it's kind of like opening people's eyes to like there is like definitely a need for this, and there are a lot of women and queer people that are in like these hobby spaces, but just like haven't really felt confident to come interact with others, mainly because like the main dominant spaces are taken up by het cis men and they just don't feel comfortable coming out. So I feel like now this is like kind of getting people more aware of the different kinds of people that are in fandom spaces, but don't necessarily they aren't always showcased as like the main demographic.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's awesome. And with like you hosting these events and like organizing these events, have you faced any like challenges with creating like that safe and like a welcoming environment for people? And how did you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, that's definitely something that is like a top priority is making sure our space is safe and sacred for women and queer people. Um, I've gotten actually a lot of support though from like cis het men that are like, hey, I see what you're doing and I really appreciate that. And some have even donated. They're really respectful of the space. They're like, we're not going to come, but I want to support this, which I really, really appreciate. I don't, this isn't me being exclusive. It's just me making sure that these people are safe. Because if I start letting kind of like anyone come, like straight cis men also come, there is that potential for my guests to feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to make sure it's as safe as possible for those that may not feel comfortable in like the mainstream environment. So for the most part, people have been really understanding. I have gotten a few questions like, "Oh, isn't this like what did someone say?" They're like, "It's discrimination, gender discrimination." It's like
Oh, really?
it's like that's not really how it works.
Uh,
Like straight cis men have a lot of spaces in Pokemon and in hobby spaces in general. So it's just about creating community for those that may not always be represented.
yeah, yeah, totally. That's such a crazy comment though. That's
Yeah, I was like, okay.
'cause I think like most of like even like board games, like just games in general, it's like very for sure like male dominated, like you said. But yeah, so with that, what advice would you kind of give to someone who would want to create their own kind of like inclusive community, either for gaming or hobbies or like trading cards?
I would say just do it. Make a post, make an Instagram. I just started with an Instagram post and a Facebook post, and it just kind of went out from there.
Yeah.
But if you're into it and you like something and you at least know one other person that also likes it, there's probably gonna be someone else or like a whole group of other people that do. And I feel like being in a bigger city, you're always gonna find someone that has like kind of the same interests as you. So I really encourage anyone out there, if you have like a special interest and you're not seeing yourself represented in like the mainstream meetups or whatever, yeah, just try and get more people together, make more community.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And the last question I have here for you is, what are your kind of hopes for the future of your events and the community that you've kind of curated so far?
Just to keep growing it. I'm really hoping to get more, even bigger events. I mean, the next event we're having is we have to cap it at 60 people, but there is way more people also wanting to come. So that's so cool. And yeah, just finding bigger venues. I'm really hoping to get some sponsors too, because I'm really passionate about making our group as low cost as possible and accessible for everyone. So I'm not making any money off of this. I don't want anyone to have to pay to come, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, just getting more people able to help or donate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that's the last kind of question I have here for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. So this was Mary Funk, a Pokemon card enthusiast on her trading events. That's For the Record. I'm Orchid Salang, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Welcome back to For the Record. My name is Selena Teixeira. Children are now having more trouble staying focused in school due to their devices. Studies from various universities are claiming that the more screen time younger children get, the worse their development and behavior can be. Getting kids to play outside and learn how to be bored allows them to develop the skills they need to be social in everyday life. Because Canada legally has to have an hour of outside time for children, there is hope of more activity and playtime. I spoke with Morgan Sands, a student in early childhood development who has worked in childcare for over 10 years. She recommends less screen time to help with early development. Here was our conversation.
Okay, hi, my name is Morgan. I'm a third year ECE student, so Early Childhood Care and Education at Capilano University. I mainly work with one-on-one children, so kids who need extra support.
Okay, and what skills are most important for children to learn at a young age?
I think tactile skills are really important, like gross and fine motor skills are really important. And then as well, learning the differences like between reactions and facial recognition, I would say.
Okay, so saying all that, how does this differ from like screen time use? Does it take away from a child's nourishment?
Yeah, 100. Well, I would say 100%. Children lose their gross motor functions quite a bit. So, like, normally if you give a child who doesn't have a lot of screen time, like a piece of paper or something, they'll try ripping it, they'll try crumpling it up, they'll try biting it, different ways of manipulating the paper. But if a child has too much screen time, then they kind of just tap at the paper, and that's their first reaction to something new is tapping, and then they get frustrated more often because they don't understand why things aren't behaving the way that they've learned. So they don't get to develop those gross motor skills, and then also the fine motor skills as well.
So like they kind of use the piece of paper as if it was like an iPad itself.
Yeah, children don't understand the difference between screens and real life. So everything is a screen, basically. And if they spend most of their time on the screens, then all of the things that they've learned is you tap when you want something, or you tap when you want something to change. So then they start tapping instead of moving their hands more.
Okay, so I've read a couple studies in the past couple days, and most of these studies have shown that consistent use of screens can deter a child's well-being. What can parents do instead of placing their child in front of the screen? Like, what can they do in order to like actually help them develop as a child?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways, and I don't want to tell parents how to parent their kids, but I would definitely say, like, before 2 years old, almost no screens if possible. I know that's really difficult in this day and age, but before 2 is where the impacts are really strong. I would just recommend the good old-fashioned toys, going outside. Basically, anything besides a screen is kind of what looks better. There's no special toy or special thing that can guarantee development for children, but you know, you want to work on like the tactile function, so squeezing things, moving things around, cause and effect. So like those light up toys they learn, you know, you press a button, there's a music playing and things like that. Just things that are more real world, maybe.
And interaction with other kids would help as well, right?
Definitely. You want to interact with people, not just parents, but if you got siblings or friends, and just learning facial cues and social cues, because children learn most things off of watching and then replicating that.
And it shows that like children have like shorter attention spans and they get angry more often as well. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because they have instant gratification when they're on a screen. And so when they don't encounter instant gratification for everything else, it's a lot more difficult. And then also, I mean, our attention spans are shot. So imagine if you had an iPad in front of you right when you were learning what an attention span is, it just kind of cuts it.
Yeah, for sure. Because like my brother, like he was born in like 2012, and immediately as soon as he was born, he was put in front of the screen.
Yep.
And like he does get very frustrated pretty often.
Yeah.
He's like on his screen 24/7. So I can see that like the screen time has definitely like not helped him learn social skills.
Yeah, because it gives you what you want right away. And if you want to change games, you can change games right away, but we can't necessarily do that. If someone's bothering you, you can turn off the thing. You can just basically ghost them if you want to, but you can't really do that in like an in-person conversation. So
Yeah, for sure.
definitely more difficult.
And you work with children, right?
Yeah.
So have you noticed a change in children's behavior now that iPads are being used for entertainment purposes?
Yeah, I've noticed. I started working in childcare like a long time ago, probably maybe 10 years at this point, and you've definitely noticed the children definitely get frustrated a lot more often, but they don't have, as in my experience, as good problem solving skills. It kind of seems very much so like, I don't know how to do this, I'm not going to do this. You either do it or it's not getting done. So their problem solving skills seem like they're on the decline. I have only worked at 2 centers, so things can be different in different places, and it also depends on like parenting and other circumstances. But I would say problem solving, and then they don't know how to be bored in any capacity. So a lot of childcare places, well, legally in BC, you have to have at least 1 hour outside, and children will go outside. From my experience, children go outside and they're like, what am I supposed to do out here? And you're like, go play. Like, we're in the woods, there's a playground there, you can like do some imaginary work, you know. You guys can be princesses or whatever you want. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. I just want to go and like watch TV. And you're like, no, like we're going to be outside. And they kind of are unsure what to do when they go outside. And they're looking for a lot of direction, which in my previous experience, that's not what it used to be like. There's a lot of less independence, but that's also like parental ideals and all of that as well. I'm sure it would be different. I work in North Van, so I'm sure it would be different in Vancouver or anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. And do you find that children are like much more meaner because of like the media they consume on the internet?
I find that children are saying things that they don't understand a little bit more, because memes are going all the way down to even the 5-year-olds if they have older siblings or depending on their internet access. But they're saying things, they're repeating things that they've heard that are not something that you should really be saying to people. You know, they say like, I can't think of something, but pretty hurtful, insulting things, and they don't understand that they're saying that, which is pretty normal for children, but it's like a specifically internet slang that they are not understanding what it means, and then also the educators are not understanding, so that kind of, but they do seem to think, yeah, I would say they're a little bit meaner in a different way than they used to be.
It's not even like bullying anymore, just like saying hurtful things.
Yeah, like it depends on like what YouTuber they watch. If their YouTuber is always dunking on gay people, they're gonna start dunking on gay people, and they're 5, and most of the time they don't even know what it means when they're saying those words, but they see someone who they really like and they're saying those things, so they're gonna replicate it, and then parents aren't really checking in on what their children are watching all the time because they have kids YouTube, but kids YouTube is kind of gross. It's not monitored properly, and there's people making really weird content, and they're doing it on purpose, and it's really icky.
Because it gets children to access like adult themes at a younger age, and then they don't understand what that means.
Yeah, and they just like, there's a lot of YouTube channels that seem at first glance that they're really cool for kids, but they're just not. None of them are educational. Like, there's no guarantee that things are educational. And on YouTube, they can kind of claim whatever. They can be like, oh, top stories your children needs to know for being the smartest in kindergarten or something. And then it has no foundation in education or anything. And so parents just kind of let their children click on stuff, and it's unmonitored. So it's gross.
Welcome back to For the Record. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and our guests for their time. Join us again this Thursday for more stories. On behalf of my co-hosts, Braden Coombs and Orchid Solang, I'm Selena Teixeira, and thanks again for joining us. You're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.